Hi, Doc. I have another story I'd like to tell. This one comes from a series of stories that I've written called The Lighthouse Tales. And every story is dedicated to a different individual in my life who has left a remarkable mark. I like that. Who has left a remarkable mark. These are individuals of which I felt like I have learned either some sort of deep emotional, spiritual, physical, mental, social lesson from. If she finds this story and she doesn't like this story, just let me know and I will remove the story. But before we get into the story, I would like to share my thoughts on it, my observations, before it gets confusing. I learned quite a number of things from people, but one lesson that I continually have to go back towards, I have to really relearn it to sink it in, is gentleness. Gentleness. Being gentle with the world and being gentle with yourself. And at the time I had met this girl, I didn't know anything about that. I knew that people go through shit and that we should be understanding and we should be caring. But the way that I interacted with the world and the way she interacted with the world were very different things, were very different approaches. And I saw the most gentle warrior of my life in the eyes of this girl. This story was written when I was about 15, 14 maybe, so please understand that my aggro perspectives on the mental health industry are coming from a really angsty time. Not that they're entirely invalid to point that out, but yeah, it's a bit rough. The whole story's a bit rough if you fucking ask me. But I wrote Lighthouse Tales, and I was just sitting here and I was thinking about it. I was like, I was kind of feeling a Bard-esque vibe, like I follow around the hero and kind of observe all their wins and what they're doing, and then I write a little song about it and spread it all across the land so that people can honor and remember these individuals. And I think that subconsciously is what I am doing with this Lighthouse Tales. She's the first person I ever wrote about too, which really says 1,000 words a minute. This story, Doc, is called Plan B, Hospital Socks. I had a friend named Monica, and we haven't talked in years, and only exchanged a handful of words since we last saw one another. The last time we saw one another was both the first and last time we ever saw each other. I met Monica in a psychiatric ward when I was in high school, and even if I didn't see her face in my social media feed on the rare occasion to remind me of her, I don't think I could ever forget about her. You see, because she scared me, and she scared me a lot. So I became friends with her. Or maybe she became friends with me. You see, Monica suffered from your typical teenage mood disorder by medical standards or whatever bullshit they could use to dose her up with all their fancy, expansive prescriptions. I don't know where that came from. I don't think she suffered from something a psychologist could deduce down to bipolar disorder or depression. You see, Monica didn't scare me because she was mean or angry or even aggressive. In fact, it was the complete opposite. She was gentle and kind, passive with a child's smile, but had dark eyes and messy curls thrown back into a ponytail that would slide down her head over the hours. Monica scared me because her eyes were windows into an abyss that was so deep and dark, getting lost in them was hypnotizing. The first time I noticed Monica, I thought she was just such a beautiful person. And when I spoke, I realized the true depth of her beauty. It's not just skin deep. It's not something akin to an angel or a majestic feline either. Her beauty was in her mind, in her kindness, in her soul, in those eyes that echoed her swallowed weeping within, those eyes with trails of drying tears. I nicknamed her Moody Monica. She said to me, "That's me." "No, it's not," I responded. "It's cute." My memories of the time I spent there are few. Some people sticking to my thoughts more than others. Monica stays, though. Monica's dark brown eyes and sad smile live rent-free in my head. Her scarred arms and heavy energy she shouldered when idled spoke 1,000 words she never could. Moody Monica. I only saw one mood, though. I only heard one word that trembled at the tip of her tongue, one sentiment that she didn't have to share, moments she didn't have to explain, and darkness she didn't have to express. She didn't say it, but I saw it. The doctors can't cure her ailments with therapy and medications. They can't diagnose what she is. Instead, they'll take the symptoms of her curse and they'll use an umbrella term to fit their standards. She knew that, at her wit's end and looking for an exit in a monastery meant for healing. Moody Monica tried to hang herself one night, tying together the pale yellow socks the hospital gave to us. She wrapped the noose around her throat and tried to strangle the life out of her lungs. I wonder how she tried to do it. I even asked, but she didn't want to elaborate, and I understood. I laughed. "It's not funny," she said. "Yes, it is," I retorted. "Not because she tried to kill herself. She ended up here because she had no more will left to begin with. I just couldn't get the imagery of her tying together all those socks she diligently collected over the days. R.I.P. Moody Monica, God just received another angel, death by socks." Silly girl, I thought. Poor girl. After that, an orderly was tasked with watching over her all hours of the day and night, now deeming Monica a high risk and a dangerous threat to herself. A personal bouncer with a psychology degree can't protect her, though. They can't defend the beasts that are prowling and pouncing on her all hours of the day and night. She was stuck in a twisted arena, battling herself to death with an audience made up of every mood she didn't show and every demon she didn't talk about and every person that lives in her memories cheering her on. Which part of Monica, I wondered? The side of her that's become unhinged and deadly? The one that takes possession of her at night, salvaging scraps for makeshift rope? Of course not. They cheer for the beaten warrior she's become, the one that's always fighting with her broken swords and worn armor, right? The usual champion, of course. If you believe in Monica, you cheer for the side of her that was being strangled by her own shadow, right? But in Monica's arena, they wanted blood spilled from their tireless victor. No longer wanting to exist in the reaches of a crumbling mind, those apparitions were just as twisted as the ground she fought on. How was a glorified nurse in training going to save her from herself? They're just as tired as she is. I don't know if I ever said goodbye to her. I don't remember much aside from her smile these days. I'm sure I did, though. I'm also sure I left before her. I didn't learn much other than some yoga poses and that I have an absolute distaste for the mental health industry. But I learned what I needed to from Monica, from watching her interact with the world and watching the way her eyes stared back at me when she spoke, watching her demons fight a tireless battle, traveling through her gaze and into the abyss that sucked me in. I found what I was looking for. And that is my story on being gentle. And you're probably like, "Joe, that doesn't make sense." But let me tell you this. When I say Monica's a warrior and she's a gentle one, oh boy, do I mean it. Because she was violent and angry and hurt, and she cried and she screamed and she scratched and she fought every day and night with herself. But when she stepped out of her room, or when she said hello, or even when she sat alone, she was kind to the world. She was nice, she was sweet, she was caring, She made sure that everybody had somebody to talk to. If she saw anybody sitting by themselves, she walked up straight towards them just to see what they were doing and invited them back to the table where everybody else sat. That's not something you expect from somebody so violent. The scars she carried were crazy. And I think about her a lot. Because despite her struggles and her battles, both inside of herself and whatever she was dealing with in her home life, she was still kind and caring. And a lot of us aren't. We're mean and ornery. We talk shit on the internet. And instead of, working through our stuff, we use people as punching bags. And I've never been like a bully per se. I have the edge. I really do have the edge to to be like, we need bullying. Bullying is a necessary part of development. I fucking do, man. I really fucking do. And at the time that I met her, I was not so gentle to the world. While in my own ways I was kind and caring, I'd help somebody out and then, probably like talk some shit to them right after, but like, tough love kind of stuff. She didn't do stuff like that. She was nice. Called her Moody Monica. She didn't like that. I still think it's funny, and she doesn't understand how the layers to that. Because like I said, Moody Monica only showed one mood. It was kindness. It was whatever that mood is. And it's certainly not peace. I can tell you that. And if I had met her anywhere else, if I didn't meet her in a psych ward, I would not have guessed. I wouldn't have known. They made us, we weren't really allowed to wear long sleeve shirts and shit like that. So sometimes your shit was on blast for everybody to see. And you can hide it with bandages, but we know what's under there. You know what I mean? And her eyes, I'm telling you, they were so dark. And it was just so jarring to see those dark eyes and just such a bright, pretty smile. A kind smile. That's what made it pretty. We live in a world today where kind people like that are driven to hurt themselves and take their own lives. The kindness we so desperately seek out is trying to snuff itself out. And I think about that a lot. She's so kind because that's the type of kindness and caring that she hopes for or looks for or seeks out in her home life. Right? That's unconsciously, we do all of those things, When we're treated like shit, what do? We can treat other people like shit, or we can realize that this person over here treated me like shit, so the last thing I want to do is make somebody else feel like shit. That was our hero there. She didn't treat other people like shit. She treated herself like shit. And that's fucked up. That's all I have to say.